you hear me? This is what I always have to do. Can you hear me? Okay. So let me start off old age. First of all, thank you all for coming and sharing in this event. I truly appreciate. As you get older, time is everything. And spending time with family and friends, it's not about presents, it's not about the material things, it's about the time that you spend with your family. So I truly appreciate you taking the time out and doing that. Thank you. But now it's about you. Alright? So, in 1925, Carroll Richard Don Bosco, that's his confirmation name. And just to give you, Don Bosco was a saint who was a prankster. So I don't know why he would have chosen that name. But, I don't know, I wonder too. He was born the son of Marguerite and Carroll Hann. And after going through this, he said he was either born in Town or on West Side Avenue. But he can't remember. And that's okay. But we've narrowed it down. When he was young, he went to St. Mary's School, where he met his best friend, George Lushball. There, he was an altar boy. Believe it or not, as he was an altar boy, he did step on one of the priest's robes and about tripped the priest and made fun of the priest while he was up there going, because the priest had a lisp, and he would go, I'm telling on you. Also, while he was at St. Mary's, he could play football, and he hit the principal, little short lady, little short nun, in the head with the football. So he was quite the prankster and got in a lot of trouble in St. Mary's. Right, Dad? He didn't. Can you? You better listen. I'm telling your whole story. You better listen. Focus. All right. He then spent some time in Catonsville with his aunt when he was about 16, 17. He had to move down there. I don't know why. And when he was 17, he and George Lushball enlisted in the United States Army. He was in the 3rd Army under General Patton. They went over to Europe to serve in World War II. The only thing he remembers a lot of things, but his biggest thing is he couldn't stand the boat ride. And he will not go on a cruise because he feels he's still going to get seasick. In 1940, that was in 1942. In 1946, he came back to Hagerstown. His first job was at the railroad, but then he was laid off there. So then his friend, Ross Grossnickel, told him, hey, the city of Hagerstown's, or the city light plant's hiring, so you better go down there and get a job. So he went down there, and he was hired by Mr. Daniels, but his mother said he didn't want to, she said, you shouldn't go, because you need to stay at in the railroad, right, Dad? Okay. Well, you weren't around. Okay. So, I can say this, that as he was back in Hagerstown, again, he and his buddy George Lushball used to get into a lot of mischief. Yes, I'm telling. And he used to ride around Hagerstown. They had this dummy, and they dressed it was like a mannequin, and it was dressed up like a woman with blonde hair. And he used to ride around Hagerstown and ride up by my mom's house and stuff like that and put their arms around this buxom blonde. So, however, afterwards, he didn't know what happened to the dummy, and so at the light plant, he thought it was really funny because this old guy, and I can't remember his name, but he would know, he put it in a dumpster in the back. And the poor old guy about had a heart attack because he thought it was a dead person. So he does regret that. Now I am going to tell you a secret, but you can't tell because I don't know the statute of limitations. But he and George Lushbaugh used to go to the old mill, and one evening they went to the old mill, and of course they weren't done, so they decided to go all the way out to Greencastle. And they went around the square of Greencastle, and all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but boom, George leans over and says, "I think I got a flat tire." And my dad leans out and he's like, "No, you don't have a flat tire. You've hit the square, the big monument there." And the whole side, they had to climb out, and he said that if it wasn't for the Mayflower cab guy that came and picked them up, they ran home, and it was in the paper and the next morning about how somebody hit this monument in Greencastle. So it was him, and he's busted now. Look, I'm sorry, he just wants to say George was driving. So, in 1948, he met Miss Maureen Yvonne Martin on West Side Avenue. Now, she was 7 years younger than him, and I know a story because they always used to say, "Hey, Hann, you're robbing the cradle." And that was Mr. Grossnickel, again, that would ride by in the alley at the West Side and just keep yelling, "Hey, Hann, you're robbing the cradle." And my dad says he was just mad because he wanted him to go pull tree stumps at South Mountain. And now he had a woman. So
A girl.
I'm sorry, a girl.
In a cradle.
He was a cradle robber.
That's what they called him.
So in 1951, they got married.
Yay.
And he settled down. Maybe not. I do know some stories. In 1955, they purchased their house on Glenside Avenue.
Yay.
And they're still there.
Yay.
So, during that time also, he joined the Knights of Columbus. My Pap Kaufman, my mother's stepfather, encouraged him to join that. In 1960, he joined the Alsatia Club. So, those things kept him busy. But also on Glenside, he started his infamous garden, had a lot. He started his pigeon coop where he raised pigeons until he got sick. And my mother had to take care of the pigeons, which didn't last long, so the pigeons didn't. Yeah. That was over with, so we had to let the pigeons go. Yeah, she clubbed them. In 1976, sorry, we're only up in 1966, I came along, and my mom always remembers that my dad used to take me all over the place. He used to take me to the city of Hagerstown to get his paycheck, and she just said the other night that he used to take me after he gets the paycheck to the taverns. And I don't know, so, thank you. Maybe Schaefer's Tavern, I don't know. All throughout the 70s, he became like an awesome guy on the street. He would help the Nortons, the Fowlks, the Beatties, and he used to dress up for Halloween and as Mr. Brown. He'd put these glasses on, this thing, and try to scare the crap out of everybody. But Marty Russell got him back because he used to toilet paper his trees all the time. He used to get mad because the Kennedy boys used to climb his trees. Yeah. He used to make us all rubber band guns and everything. And also during the 70s, he and my mom started bowling. And he continued on. At the end of the 70s, my dad helped me. I was in the 4-H club. And my dad would grow the vegetables, and then I would go to the fair and win the like grand champion. So I was like the grand champion: onion, potato, pumpkin. Yeah, but I did give him the ribbons because he did win them. But so, and another thing I kind of remember like from the 70s is my dad used to bowl every Friday night. I swear to God, that was like throughout the 80s and 90s too. We always said if someone would die, we could never have the funeral on Friday night because he just wouldn't be there. And back in those days, the Alsatia Club always had like an unpublished number, but I found it. So I knew after bowling he would go down to the Alsatia Club, and I used to get on the phone and call him and say, I'd like to speak to Dick Hann. And he'd come to the phone, and I'm like, Dad, please come home and bring me a pizza from Corsi's. He didn't always come home. But he tried. So in 1980, he was still bowling and everything, so forth and so on. I have to laugh at this because like in 81, 82, I had my first boyfriend there at the house, and Mr. Brian Miner. And of course, I was a teenager then and everything. And we're in there and we're sitting there on a Friday night, and my dad comes home from bowling and he's half crocked and he's had a little too much to drink. And he comes in the room with this, I'm sorry, but I am gonna, with this shit-eating grin on his face. And he like walks around just kind of like, hey, and I'm like, oh Lord. I mean, as a teenager, you get so embarrassed. Like, what's he gonna say? So as he leaves the room, he just lets a little toot out. and so he walks away, he comes back and he goes, hey, Colleen. And there's silence, and I'm mortified. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I thought I heard a mouse. Off he went. And then I went out and cried to my mother. No, that's not all. You're 90 years old.
That's a lot of history.
In 1985. Yeah. In 1985, after 37 years, he retired from the City of Hagerstown Light Plant. But also in 1985, his first grandson, Ryan Miner, was born. So it was just in time afterwards that he got to babysit. And one of the times I remember that he used to take Ryan all over the place too, and he and Mr. Kirshner went up to Deep Creek Lake. Chuck Kirshner, you remember this? And they were going to take Ryan on a boat ride. So they headed up and everything, and they get in the boat, and Mr. Kirshner can't get the boat working. And they're trying back and forth, and then, so all of that, they thought something was wrong. And then Mr. Kirshner said afterwards, it was out of gas. So they did try. But in 1990s, he's still bowling. In the year 2000, still planting his garden, still doing his flowers, going to the Elk Club birthday parties. I just had to put this in here, in 2012, to honor both of them, my husband and I got married on September 14th because that's their anniversary, and it's the best way to honor them. So he got the best son-in-law in the world. Yeah, okay.
Go Leon.
Yep. And then in 2013, he had his open heart surgery. He had his aortic valve replaced, and he had a double bypass. We went to Sinai for that. Dr. Cicada, awesome guy. But as we were back in Hagerstown, I had to laugh because at the catheterization of Dr. Faridi said, you know, your arteries for that, they're clogged, but I mean, you are in really good shape. He's like, I mean, he was joking. He's like, well, what do you eat for breakfast? And my dad was like, well, I eat the breakfast of the champions. And he's like, well, you have to drink some beer. And he's like, well, yeah, I drink Pabst Blue Ribbon. And Dr. Freedy's like, I've never heard of that. He's like, well, see, that's why I'm in such good shape. So he made it through that surgery. He got, I mean, a lot of people would get like I don't know if it's the morphine or anything. And I was with him the whole time because he can't hear 100%. He gets mad at me, but I know when he's faking and he can, and when he pretends that he can hear. So I stayed with him, and I mean, he went through that whole surgery, and he had like 2 or 3 Tylenols, and that's it. So he's one tough booger, and he didn't believe it, but all the doctors kept saying how great he was doing. So now he's back. He has a cow valve, He did not hear the doctor say that, and after 3 times, I had to try to explain to him, you have a cowbell. That's why you are mooing. So, and of course, in 2015, here we are. You've turned 90 years old, and you're still going strong. Woo! What? No, you try to help him, and every time I'm like, my husband and I will try to run over and we'll say, let us mow the grass. What do you think I am, an invalid? And I can't help him. We do try to help and everything, but still, it's like awesome. And I want to be just like him when he gets older. He still walks 2 miles a day. He still mows the grass. His great neighbor, John, helps him with his garden, helping with weeding and stuff like that. So, but he really appreciates that. So, that's his life, some of his favorite things. He's a simple man, but he's very competitive. He taught me how to play baseball, and all I can remember is where the pigeon coop used to be, if you know where I'm talking about. He could hit a baseball over the Faust house, out to Halfway Boulevard, where it is now, and he'd make me go chase it each time. And he took no mercy. He'd do it every time and thought it was funny.
It was.
And then, as he got a little older in his sight, we have a boxing thing in our garage. So he puts the boxing gloves on, and my mother's like, Dad, now don't do that. She's like, now you're going to hurt somebody. And he's, oh, Maureen, I can do it. And he's going like this to me, and he puts his fist up, boom, cracks me right in the eye. You did! So, some of the best things, if you know my dad, he's a diehard Red Sox fan, Boston Red Sox. Ted Williams is his favorite baseball player. Oh, well, we don't want the New York Yankees. He's been in baseball all of his life. Pittsburgh Steelers fan. He was a boxer in the Army and in Hagerstown. He was the ping pong champion here in Hagerstown. So his favorite beers, Pabst Blue Ribbon and Red, White, and Blue, and something about 7 and 7 bourbon. I don't know. He used to have these little miniatures in his Falcon. I didn't know what they were, and they'd roll out. My mother's like, oh, let them alone. We don't want to touch them. And of course, his cigars. He loves his Blue Ribbon. So, doesn't like to travel a lot. His favorite musician of all times is Dean Martin. We listen to that all the time. Every week we watch baseball and westerns, and he's like a Charlie Channel chaser because we go back and forth. And he's a good dancer. You have to ask him to do his, I call it the Russian dance because there's no other way to. Right, Dad? Can you do that dance? He does this little thing, and it's great. But he's lived a lifetime of great memories, and I'm so proud and so honored to be your daughter. You just don't know. And I love you, Dad. Huh? I feel better. Well, let me say, Ryan has something to say as his grandson.